An armed man breaks into another man's home. The homeowner beats the armed home intruder and is now facing charges of assault. This isn't a joke. This is Canada. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. As many of you know, I am Canadian, and Canada is known for a number of good things: bacon, maple syrup, the great outdoors. It's also known for some bad things: quarantine hotels, censorship, forest bans of hiking, fishing, and camping, and now criminalizing self-defense. Now, I have been on the internet for over a decade, and in that time, I have had to hear Americans say, Viva, you think you have free speech in Canada, but you don't. You think you have rights in Canada, but you don't. You think you have the right to self-defense in Canada, but you don't. And I have lived long enough to know that, my goodness, all of the people saying that for the last better part of a decade were, in fact, 198% accurate. In Canada, you are not allowed carrying around a weapon in public for the purposes of self-defense. So if you have a bat in your car, you better damn well have a baseball and a mitt if you want to avoid charges. You can't carry around a knife for self-defense. You can't carry around pepper spray. You can't have a taser. You can't own a firearm in your own home for self-defense. If you go take the firearm course, that 2-day course where you have to get a background check afterwards and all you can get is a rifle, you cannot own that rifle for the purposes of self-defense. And by golly, if you are ever in unfortunate circumstances enough where you use that firearm for the purposes of self-defense, you might be alive, but you're going to face charges in Canada, as this homeowner is facing charges now, but not even for using a firearm for the purposes of defending himself against an armed intruder at 3:20 in the morning. Now, I'm not the first person to report on this. This was actually widely reported in Canada, but my goodness, if I'm going to put this one on blast, and I put this one on blast, if you haven't heard this story, it's as absurd as it sounds. 10 days ago on Twitter, Viva Fry at the Viva Fry, this is Canada. The intruder broke into the man's house with a weapon. Now the homeowner faces charges of assault, anarcho-tyranny. And for those of you who have never heard of the concept anarcho-tyranny, it's an amazing concept you absolutely have to understand. Much like the Japanese concept of ikigai, the German concept of schadenfreude, anarcho-tyranny, here's what it means. Mark Andreessen tweeted this at PMARCA. What does that mean? Quote, anarcho-tyranny is a social condition characterized by a combination of anarchy and tyranny, where the government is simultaneously ineffective at enforcing laws against criminal behavior and overly oppressive against law-abiding citizens. Anarcho-tyranny, never forget the concept. And getting back to the story, if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think there's something off in the reporting, that's what I thought until I read the actual article. CBC News, the state-funded propagandist organization, man charged after allegedly assaulting home intruder in Lindsay, Ontario, police say. Tuesday, August 19, 2025. From an article that was syndicated and republished in Yahoo News. According to police, the resident had woken up to find an intruder inside his apartment. The two had an, quote, altercation, end quote, and the intruder suffered life-threatening injuries, police say, and was later airlifted to a Toronto hospital. Police say the resident is facing charges for aggravated assault and assault with a weapon. The alleged intruder, 41, is also facing charges, including breaking and entering and possession of a weapon for dangerous purposes. Police say the man was also wanted for unrelated offenses. When the story broke, there was something of an absence of details. People were freaking out and others were saying, wait until the details come in. The details have come in and they have done nothing to attenuate the egregious injustice, the anarcho-tyranny of this story. CBC News, Canada, intruder in Lindsay, Ontario break-in used a crossbow, court documents say. The home invasion touched off a debate about what constitutes reasonable force in self-defense. Thomas Daigla, CBC News, posted August 27, 2025. What are the reasonable limits of self-defense when a man armed with a dangerous weapon breaks into your home at 3:20 in the morning? I dare say anybody who does that is relinquishing their right to live, and any homeowner is damn well justified to do pretty much whatever is necessary to make that person subdued and to ensure they remain subdued. The Lindsay, Ontario man charged in an early morning break-in last week wielded a crossbow in the incident and was out on probation at the time, according to court documents filed Wednesday. The violent episode on August 18, which led to charges against both the alleged intruder, Michael Kyle Breen, and the home's resident, Jeremy David MacDonald, set off a cross-Canada debate over what constitutes legal self-defense. According to a charge sheet, Breen, 41, destroyed a window and screen at McDonald's home in Lindsay, part of the city of Kawartha Lakes, In Ontario cottage country, Breen is charged with 4 counts including break and enter and carrying a weapon, the Crossbow, to commit an offense. He is scheduled to appear for a bail hearing next week. So they are in cottage country, which is another word for remote areas, not densely populated areas, areas where it might take more than 5 minutes for police to get there, and the resident or the homeowner faced with an armed intruder at 3:20 in the morning. I'm not sure if this guy had any family in the house. A fight ensues with the armed home intruder. He gets beaten so badly he needs to be airlifted to hospital, and the resident, the homeowner. And we're sitting here with the luxury of asking ourselves, what constitutes reasonable force when defending against an armed intruder? This is abject insanity. Abject insanity, also known as anarcho-tyranny. Thy name is Canada. A fight ensued after the break-in. Police said the alleged intruder was so badly injured that he had to be airlifted to a Toronto hospital located about 100 kilometers away. MacDonald, 44, is charged with aggravated assault and assault with a weapon, allegedly a knife. A man breaks into your home at 3:20 in the morning armed with a crossbow. You get a knife or whatever you can get your hands on. You beat him a little too hard, according to the police. You're now facing charges for being a law-abiding citizen defending against an armed criminal with a rap sheet as long as however long this guy's rap sheet was. But wait, there's a little bit of a twist to all of this. It seems that the men knew each other. The 2 men knew each other. The acquaintances of Breen separately told CBC News the 2 men knew each other before the break-in, and court documents list Breen's residence as an address less than 600 meters from MacDonald's apartment. Kawartha Lakes Police and MacDonald's lawyer, Stephen Norton, previously declined to say whether there was any connection between the 2 men. Quote, the history of the relationship between these 2 parties is probably going to be an enormous factor, end quote. In the case, criminal defense lawyer Alison Craig told CBC Toronto's Metro Morning. Quote, the law needs to be clear, end quote, federal conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said. Quote, if someone invades your home, you have the right to defend your home and your family, end quote. Ontario Premier Doug Ford suggested at the time that the charges laid against MacDonald showed, quote, something is broken, end quote. Quote, if someone breaks into my house or someone else's, you're going to fight for your life, end quote. Ford told reporters last Wednesday, quote, this guy has a weapon. You're going to use any force you can to protect your family, end quote. At an event in Inglewood, Ontario on Wednesday, Ford said part of the problem is also that, quote, judges keep letting people out on bail, end quote, and said he'd, quote, be all over the Prime Minister about bail reform, end quote. So judges keep letting criminals out of jail. The police are telling you to leave the fobs to your car at the front door because the criminals are armed with real guns while they strip law-abiding citizens of their right to own guns, specifically for the purposes of self-defense, and then they charge the homeowner with assault when he successfully defends himself against an armed intruder. I don't care if they knew each other. The fact that they might have known each other means that one of them might have known how dangerous the other one was. I don't care if they knew each other. Anyone breaking into your house at 3 in the morning with a weapon is basically relinquishing their right to live. Legal experts have clarified that self-defense is legal in Canada, but that it must be, quote, reasonable, end quote. Criminal lawyer Tanya Kent told CBC News that if, for example, someone assaults another person by pushing them, that person can't then pick up a baseball bat and start beating them and claim self-defense. Quote, that's not reasonable force, end quote, Kent said. Well, thank you for using a hypothetical that is totally inapplicable to the situation at hand. We're not dealing with someone who shoved another person and then got beaten with a baseball bat. I always say there's no point using imperfect analogies when we have a perfect situation. Here, as far as we all know, there was a criminal with a rap sheet breaking into somebody's house at 3:20 in the morning, armed with a weapon, intending to use it for dangerous purposes. He got beat a little bit too hard. Tough noogies, that's what you asked for. But alas, this is Canada, the land of maple syrup and beer, bacon, quarantine hotels, banning of hiking and fishing in the forests, snitching on your neighbors during COVID, censorship, and a total lack of right to self-defense. Now, by the way, if you're still watching this video right now and you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, and turned on notifications, I don't know what I need to do to get you to do it, but do it. Do it now. And if you're not going to do that, at least get out there and get some exercise, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out.